So somebody had a doubt about the laws of dialectics. So the first law is of unity and conflict of opposites. Before starting with this law, let's understand that dialectics is about social change. It explains us the process through which social change occurs. It helps us understand what leads to change. So the first law, it says that there is a unity and conflict of opposites. It simply means that whenever there is a social change, we need to have opposites. That means there is one element and there is a second element. Both are opposite to each other. This is necessary. And the second, as we can see it is conflict. So, if only element 1 is present, social change will not occur. 1 should always be with 2. So, there is a unity. Means both have to be together. And both should be opposites. So, togetherness or unity, and second one is there should be a conflict between both. Although the language which is given in IGNOU is a bit tough and you might think what has been written, but this is the crux, that the opposites have to coexist, or unity, and they should be contradictory, or there should be a conflict. Only then we can see social change or development. Because after the conflict, we will see the result, and the result will be a new situation or a new stage of development. Now, the first law is the law of unity and conflict of opposites. This is law 1. Now, the second and the third laws, L2 and L3, they are particular instances of first law itself. What does this mean? It means some cases have been taken and L1 is applied to those cases, and we come to L2 and L3. So what is L2? Law 2 says law of negation of the negation. What does this mean? We can apply it to feudal society. First we had feudal society, then we came to capitalist society, and then socialism. So capitalist society was a negation of feudalist society or feudal society. Socialism was a negation of capitalist society, which means it was negation of negation, because capitalist society is already a negation. So this concept goes on till infinity, negation, and this is how change happens. Now, when negation happens, it means that conditions are being created in the internal system because of contradictions. So, for example, if workers are working in a factory and they find that the working conditions are not favorable, so they start contradicting the demands of the factory owners, perhaps the demand to increase production. So there is contradiction. Because of these internal contradiction, what will happen? It will lead to negation of capitalist system, and it will lead to socialism according to this particular law. Now, this leads us to the third law. Now here it is the law of transition of quantity into quality. Here quantity means small changes which keep happening in our day-to-day life or for a shorter period of time. But quality, a qualitative change, is an abrupt change when the conditions are ripe. For example, we will continue with the same example. When the workers feel that they cannot work in the factory because they realize that they are being exploited. Now this exploitation goes on for many months or perhaps many years, and gradually what happens? Their mindset gets changed towards the factory owners, and suddenly they realize that they cannot take it any longer, and they unite and they revolt. So this revolt takes place on one particular day, but the mindset has been changed over a period of time. So this particular change or number of changes, they are known as quantitative changes, whereas the revolt that took place on one particular day, it is a qualitative change. This is the difference. So any social change or change, it is not abrupt, but it is actually a product of smaller changes which are known as quantitative change. Okay, it is known as quantitative change, and when things are ripe, when the right time arrives, suddenly we see a leap or perhaps a revolution, and we call it a qualitative change. One example of this is the French Revolution. The French Revolution, even though it took place on one particular day, or it started on one particular day, yet it was a result of changes going on over a period of time, when people started realizing that they were undergoing exploitation and their ideology started changing. So, quantitative change or series of quantitative changes leads to one particular instance of change, which is known as qualitative change. Now, the question which was given as an assignment or a task, it said that you had to apply all the 3 laws of dialectics to the modes of production. Now, since the first mode, the primitive mode, does not contain any conflict, so we can say that there was no social change. However, let's say this is the primitive stage. So in the initial stage, everything was going on very smoothly, but gradually what happened? Some families started getting richer. Other families started getting poorer. So differences started coming up. What does this mean? There were conflicts and we had opposites. What do we understand by opposites here? Means rich versus poor. So conflict started coming up, conflict of opposites, and here we see that gradually what happened? We first had quantitative changes. That means smaller changes, accumulation of wealth by few families, they started getting richer. Of course, this did not take place suddenly, but over a period of time. And suddenly, at the right time, qualitative change took place, which means what was the qualitative change? It was negation of negation. What does this mean? Here it means negation of primitive communal system. So, if this is the primitive system, if this is slave, feudal, capitalist and socialist. So, what is happening here? Towards the end, conflict is happening, conflict of opposites. Gradually, what is happening? Quantitative changes are taking place, and here qualitative change has taken place, which means negation of primitive system. Then similarly, what will happen here? Again conflicts between slave owners and slaves. Then again quantitative changes leading to a sudden qualitative change, which means negation of slave system. So feudal system came up. Again some conflicts, which means landowners versus the workers or laborers. Then quantitative changes, again a qualitative change here. Here the capitalist system is the negation of feudal society. Again the same thing happening, and conflicts, haves and have-nots, the factory owners and the workers, quantitative change is happening, qualitative change, finally on one particular day a revolution giving rise to socialist system, which is a negation of capitalist system. Now here, whenever we are talking about negation, although the first negation will be only a simple negation, but the second negation will be negation of negation. Here negation of negation, here also same thing. So this is the application of what we understand as the laws of dialectics. When you read the IGNOU, you will find that sometimes it may be confusing. You might think something very technical is being said, and that is why you get afraid. Please do not be afraid, because it is very easy to understand, and once you understand, you will think why I was getting so afraid. Okay, so this is how you have to understand laws of dialectics, and you can then apply it in your answer. All the best. Happy reading.